Voice is going to be our primarily interface and how we interact with technology in the next 5 to 10 years.
Welcome to the Chatbot Podcast, the place where we talk about bots, artificial intelligence, smart automation, and messenger marketing. We value our time and enjoy when technology makes our lives easier. And now your host, Balint Pataki.
Welcome everyone, this is episode number 12 and the very first one that airs on Alexa. And there is a big reason for that. Our guest today is the guy behind one of the best Alexa skill builder companies. Vasily from Storyline is giving us amazing insights of the world of voice applications. And we not only talk about the future, but also discuss how you can have your first Alexa skill up and running within 10 minutes without any knowledge of programming languages. I guess you're excited now, so without a further ado, welcome to the show, Vasily Sinkarenko. Thank you, Vasily, for accepting my invitation and joining us on the podcast. Can you please introduce yourself really quickly for the listeners who don't know you yet?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate that. So my name is Vasily Sinkarenko. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Storyline. We make it easy to create apps or skills for Amazon Alexa without writing code. And Storyline is already the biggest tool on the market. So we power more than 2,500 Alexa skills in the store.
Wow. I'm really excited about this because I'm a newbie when it comes to voice bots. And can we call them voice bots, or do you have a better definition?
I think we can call them apps. Apps. Mm-hmm. Every big company calls them like they want. So for Microsoft, there are apps. For Amazon, there are skills. For Google, there are actions. But I think we can go with apps. Yeah.
Okay. And if we come from the whole chatbot podcast background, is it still a chatbot, or where would you put it?
You can say like a voice bot, but I don't think it's a good name. The reason I want to use apps is because app is a much more flexible term. And you can basically, like, the biggest use case for voice is content, right? And content is, and especially like one-way delivery. So for example, a flash, when you activate your flash brief and you hear some news from Alexa and you cannot say anything back. So that is not a bot, actually, right? It's kind of like a one-way content that you can consume. So that's why I think that apps is much better term.
Okay, thank you. So is voice better, or what did attract, what was the main drawing force for you to get into this space? Is it more like the future, or how is it different from written communication and chatbots?
First, I would say that I think that voice literally is the oldest natural interface, right? So we've been using it like for a million years or something like that. And from that perspective, I think it's easier to people to talk than to write, right? And especially for people who are not familiar with tech. So it's much easier for them to kind of like say something and make the computer do something using their voice than just like writing commands. So from that angle, I was really inspired like by the Star Trek experience. Like when they were controlling computers using the sound of their voice, and that was really amazing. And that looked like a future when I was a kid, when I was watching Star Trek. So now this future is here, and it's happening right now, and it's really exciting to be a part of this future.
Yeah, and I really like that you have the earpods in, because that's another step for the future in a way. Like I see people running around the street and answering emails later on.
Yeah.
When does it happen? What do you think? Is that going to be a mainstream thing, or more like a weird nerd thing that people do?
So I think that voice is going to be our primarily interface and how we interact with technology in the next 5 to 10 years. I think later than this, we'll have some sort of neural interface. But for the next 5-10 years, I think this is going to be like the primarily interface on how you do things and how you send commands. to your smart home, to basically anything.
In episode 5, we've talked about conversational copy, and the topic of voice interfaces came up as well. And we discussed that how it's in different life situations. So there are situations where you cannot use your voice, you can still type, but in other cases, you would prefer to use voice,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Uh,
sure. Especially
so,
if you're like, if you need to pass some very very intimate information, right? You're not going to tell it out loud to everyone. So there are not like, I think there is not one solution that suits everything and everyone, right? So I think that for most things, voice is really good and convenient. Like telling the commands to your Alexa, for example, that is on your desk, in your kitchen, near your bed, or integrated into your car. That is really, really convenient. And just using like voice. So, for example, I really like the recent HomePod ad they put up, like where the girl comes into the house and she says like, Siri, play me something I would like. I think this is the ultimate experience, and they've actually tried that, and that works really well. I don't know how they do that, but it actually works. So Siri somehow chooses the right tracks for you in the right period of time. Maybe they track the location, something like that. But that works really well. So I think that later on we'll have some sort of we'll actually, I think we'll go away from using invocation names to kind of call apps, right? So right now you have to say like, Alexa, open something to open the app. And I think that they actually started doing that with there is a thing called can fulfill request, can fulfill intent, which actually what it does is that you say the commands as a request. So, for example, like, Alexa, my t-shirt is dirty, or something like that, right? And then Alexa picks the right app for you. So that is how it's going to work in the future, and you will have access to your assistant everywhere, or either using your headphones, for example, like this headphones, or any other headphones, or integrated into your smartphone or any other device that you have.
oh, great. So basically, Alexa distributes all the little intents we have, and if it's a direction.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah. Some people call it God bots, but I don't want to push the idea of bots now. Let's just stay with the apps, and it's easy to relate to. In terms of writing for voice, developing for voice, compared to written communication, you are a little bit more limited, but more free in different terms. So, for example, we experience that there is less room to failure if we give predefined options and
Okay.
basically buttons for the users. And we have invoiced like traditionally in the telephone
Yeah,
support
those
calls
really
like
clunky
1, 2,
IVR
3.
systems. Yeah.
Yeah. How can you make it easy to direct the conversation in voice, but try to avoid these stereotypical old telephone options?
Yeah, so one thing I see that most people fail is so, for example, they ask a yes no question, like really, really simple question, like, do you like this or no? Or something like that. And then they also add something like, say yes if yes, say no if no. So that is really, really stupid. So don't do that. And I think that for most questions, the answers are really, really obvious. But if they are not, you need to provide examples, and you need to kind of like guide the user toward your happy path of your conversation. And I think it's going to work really well, just because the natural language understanding becomes better and better. And we are building on top of Alexa natural language understanding platform. So we give you an ability to kind of like provide the high level intents of what the user is going to say, and then Alexa will definitely recognize, even if the user says something not exactly that you described. So that also helps you to design the conversation that is going more smoothly, just because of their advanced natural language understanding.
I see. Great. To experience this improvement, because I have an Android phone. I use Google
Yeah.
Assistant, and I saw the improvement that it had compared to last year or 2 years before. Maybe my accent got a little bit smaller. I don't know, but I definitely can use it more these days than I used to. So
Yeah, and I also think that one more thing I would like to add here is that most people think about voice in terms of mm, like one interface that you can just talk to, right? And I don't think that's correct, because you need to think bigger, and you need to think about how you can display information or in a convenient format to your user. So, for example, the user can say the request like, "Show me the most popular, I don't know, apple cake recipes," right? And if you have access to multimodal experience, if you know that the user is using the device with the screen, you can basically show the information, and that's the basic design principle: like show, don't tell, right? And you can show the information, you can provide guidance using the voice interface. So I think you need to combine your best options. And first, if you're thinking like about building something for voice, first ask yourself why this is going to be like the voice app in the first place. Why do you need voice interface for this? So I think that most people skip that part. They're like, oh, this Alexa thing is really exciting, I'm going to build something. And when they start building something, something is not working because something is not suitable for voice experience. So just look for examples and start from something that really belongs to voice interface.
I see. Well, I would love to have that. I guess you said pie printed out in my kitchen. That would be nice
Yeah.
representation. um,
Yeah,
yeah. So
Amazon basically Amazon launched Echo Show series. Those are devices with screens like tablets, and you can use them to basically display information for users. And I actually, like, when I first bought Echo Show, I started using Alexa like 10 times more often, just because it's always there, and it kind of reminds you that like, hey, I'm here. You can ask me these things, and that is why Alexa usage is growing on Echo Show.
yeah, do you have some information for us, some data about how many conversations are there, how many monthly active users with Alexa, and also compared to other um, um, voice applications or systems like Siri, Google Assistant? We have Cortana, and who knows what
Mhm.
else.
Yeah, so sure. So we can talk about market size first. I think that's like the high level thing, and then we can go down to usage and drill down a little bit to understand why people are not using these things so much, especially apps and Alexa. So if we're talking about markets, I think that Amazon is doing like just an amazing job on selling these Echo devices to everyone, basically. So they have 50 million Echo devices in the United States, and this is basically saying that every 1 in 6 Americans has a smart speaker device in his home. And I think that Amazon is going to win the home segment. And Google is trying to catch up right now, and they're actually catching up pretty quickly. In the first quarter this year, they sold more devices than Amazon did because they're basically giving them for free. But I'd like to think about Google from another angle. So they have 86.2% of all Android phones worldwide. Like 86.2% of all smartphones worldwide are based on Android, right? And if you think about that, you can launch that Google action on every Android smartphone because it has Google Assistant built in. Then the market size of 50 million smart speakers seems like not a big market because there are billions of smartphones, billions of Android smartphones. And from Microsoft perspective, these guys have 500 million Windows devices, The Cortana usage is growing pretty rapidly too on these Windows Power devices, like 50% months or months just during the past year. And I think this is great that more people are starting using these things. But when you drill down a little bit into apps usage, you see that it's not that high. And Amazon is definitely beating the shit out of Google in terms of number of apps out there. So they have, I think the recent stat was that they have 40,000 Alexa skills in the store, and Storyline actually powers 2,500 of them, so which is slightly more than
Nice.
6%. So we're doing great. And this number is actually bigger than the number of apps in Google Store and in Microsoft Store combined. So those two guys are a little bit late to the market, but I think that they will also do great because those apps are not exactly the same. I mean, the use case for Alexa skill, the use case for Echo device that is on your desk or near your bed, right, is completely different than the use case of a Google action that you can use on your Android smartphone. So that's why I think that those two are kind of like different markets, and it's not fair to just compare them by the number of devices out there, because if we do, like, Google is definitely winning this. In terms of app usage, we see that more and more people start using skills on Alexa. So I'm going to speak about Alexa just because we know this really well. So we see that people use more and more things in Alexa, and the usage grows, but it's not really high right now. And the biggest problem that prevents growth is discovery. So it's really hard to find these things. You have this thing on your table, and you don't know, like, what can you do with your Echo device, right? And the App Store is out there, but it's not. I think it's not the primarily channel how people discover new skills in Alexa. So the primary channel of getting traffic for your Alexa app is getting into the native recommendations. So basically, when you say something and Alexa recommends a skill to that request, so the thing that I mentioned earlier, right? So that is the primarily way of getting users in Alexa. And to get there, you need to have a good experience first. You need to have a big number of 5-star reviews. This is really important. It's actually better to have 3 5-star user reviews than just like 10 2-stars, right? Or 52 stars. And you also have to write compelling skill description, because I think that Alexa algorithm somehow chooses those things over other skills. So the first problem is discovery, and the second problem is that once you launch the skill, tomorrow you completely forget how to fire it up again, because it's really hard to keep in mind all those invocation names. And that is why most skills are not getting so much usage, because they choose really crappy invocation names. So, for example, if it's like an audio skill, do not name it like 12-hour relaxation meditation best audio experience, right? Because nobody's gonna find it ever. Just say like ocean sounds or rain sounds or things like that.
Oh, thank you very much. I think it's a wealth of information. Let me just reflect a little bit. So, well, congratulations on having
Yeah,
these many skills from Storyline. I think it's amazing, and we will get to Storyline in a bit. I just want to quickly reflect on. We talked about the different platforms and the use cases.
yeah,
So there will be like cross-platform apps, probably,
yeah,
that can because okay, we have different use cases, but we still have an overlap when we
yeah. We
want to make
see.
notes, for example, and we are in the bed already, or we are at in the office and we want to make notes while waiting for the coffee.
Yeah, and I do think that cross-platform apps will definitely be there, right? But I don't think that. So this is actually interesting, because the whole situation with the markets right now, with all these platforms, reminds me of the situation with our internet browsers back in 2004, when there was like Internet Explorer, and those guys, Microsoft had 95 or 96% of the market or something like that, and everybody was thinking like, is it even possible to launch another browser? Is there going to be like another browser in the future? And then Firefox launched, and then Safari launched, and then Google Chrome beat all of them, right? So I think that is a little bit different here is that they the browsers, they do not have the same ecosystem as Alexa has, because there is like a Chrome store of extensions, but people don't use those things as often as they use Alexa skills, right? And that is why the ecosystem of developers and of Alexa skills and of end users matters more in this case and in this market. So for example, when BMW or Lexus are huge automotive companies, they choose which smart assistant to integrate into their cars. They see that Alexa has 50,000 apps. So that's a pretty obvious choice, right? Over Microsoft Cortana, which has like a couple of hundreds. And there is kind of like a network effect here. So you get more developers, those developers build more apps, and you integrate into broader markets like cars. And then you get more developers because they're really excited about building for cars, right? And this whole thing looks. So I think that's it's a little bit different here, and that is why I mentioned segments a little bit earlier, like different use cases for different markets. So I think that eventually, like you as a voice developer, you will have your app available on all these platforms, and that is where we're going to be as a solution provider for this, right? But I don't think that this is going to suit all the use cases really well.
Okay, so what are the best use cases for Alexa for home, in the car?
Yeah, so right now, definitely the most popular use case right now is consuming any type of audio content. So that content could be listening to Spotify, playing with our different sort of sounds, like smoothing music, right? Like rain sounds, ocean sounds, fireplace sounds, things like that. Those apps are really, really popular right now. And the third one is listening to a podcast. So that is why you need to build an Alexa scale. And those three are the sound. Just the audio use case is really popular. The second one I would say is games, all kinds of games on Alexa. So a friend of mine, Max, his company name is Volley. They've built 7 out of top 20 games for Alexa. And if you want to check out some of those, if you have a device, you definitely need to play either Yes Sire or Song Quiz. So those are just two of my favorite ones. And those games, they're voice first. They designed specifically for voice experience, and they work really well. And the third big use case is interactive storytelling, which is kind of like choose your own adventure type of thing, where Alexa tells you that like you're in a dark forest and you have 2 roads in front of you, left to right. Where do you want to go? And with really good sound effects and SSML, which is a markup language to make Alexa sound more human, this becomes a really interesting experience, and kids are so excited about this. Like they love playing these stories because they can be the hero of the story, right? You can ask your user for a name, and then you can use that name as one of their story heroes. So that is when it becomes personal. And when you hear your name every time, you're like, wow, this is really interesting. And that's why this works really well.
Well, I guess kids and Alexa could be another episode.
Yeah, that's true. You definitely need to invite one of our users, Adva. She built the number one kids app for Alexa, which is called Kids Court, and Kids Court is built on Storyline. That is really exciting for us. And Kids Court, Alexa skill won Global Alexa Kids Challenge, and she won a prize of 25,000 for that. And she had no coding experience. It was her first project for Alexa ever, and she just found she found Storyline on the web, and she built that skill, and she won that prize from Amazon. And Kids Court is doing great right now. So I think this is the point where we understand that non-tech people are actually able to design these things really well, even if they're not developers by the background.
Okay, just a quick, before we go to Storyline, it seems like there is less room for businesses, local businesses, because it's harder to discover. So it's harder to market in a way. People forget the names. Is there a way to push out information, like sending a broadcast? Is there like a subscription option at all? And how can you improve your ranking besides the reviews? Like if it's a dentist and Alexa, recommend me a dentist. How does that work?
So the first thing about businesses, the thing that excites me the most is Amazon recently launched a feature called in-skill purchases. And what in-skill purchases does is that it gives you an ability to monetize your content on Alexa. So basically, you can do like either a one-time purchase, so for example, it could be like another life in the game, or you can do subscriptions. You can subscribe your users to premium content. So for example, you could do like a premium episode of your Alexa skill for of your podcast once a week, right? And if they're premium subscribers, they will be able to access that. And the third thing they launched, which is really, really interesting, is an ability to integrate your basically Amazon vendor, like a store on Amazon, uh, with Alexa skill. So you are able, with Amazon Pay, you are able to build a skill, and your customers will be able to order and reorder things from your store using your Alexa skill. So this is where it becomes really interesting because, for example, there is like a business that sells napkins on Amazon, right? If they can make their napkins available through this, then people would love to buy these things over and over through Alexa because it's really convenient. Like, you just use the last napkin you had, and then you're like, Alexa, reorder more napkins from this brand, and that's it, right? So that is where when it becomes really interesting for businesses. So the second part of your question was about how to promote yourself on Alexa really, really efficiently. I made a short YouTube video with our SEO tips for Alexa, but the highlights are that first, the name is the most important thing. Like if you screw up the name, it doesn't matter reviews you get, how well is your description written. Like if you screw up the name, you can just like turn off the skill. That's it. So if your name is good, and I've actually written a really interesting piece of content on that, how to pick a good invocation name. If your invocation name is good, then the second thing that matters the most is the 5-star reviews and enablements. So you don't actually need to have lots of users, but it would be great if you can ask some people to just enable your skill and launch it once. That is how Alexa's algorithm recognizes that your skill is being used by someone, and that is why how they choose your skill over other skills to promote you are using the core Alexa service. And the third thing that matters really well is just the general the skill icon. So some users come from the Amazon Alexa skill store or from the mobile app when from the Alexa app when they scroll through available skills. And if your icon is different than other icons, then you'll be able to get more users. You need to make it simple. You need to make it legible and obvious so people can recognize at a glance what your skill does just by staring at this icon. But if you do those things right, then you will have better results than 99% of Alexa developers have.
Okay, awesome tips. Thank you very much. It seems like there is a rush for the good names then as well, because
Yeah, definitely. And this thing is even worse than the situation with domain names, right? Because you cannot just put a 5-letter random thing in Alexa. People will not be able to find it. So that is why here it's really important to get in the game early and just launch something and learn fast from your experience and iterate on your skill. And I think it's really important to just hold the name. You cannot uh, launch something by Coca-Cola invocation name because Amazon will not let you to do that. But in general, like there is a pretty small amount of good invocation names especially for consumer skills that you can build as a third-party developer. So if you're listening to this and if you're considering building for Alexa, I would recommend to just build something really simple, really quickly to get the name.
sounds awesome. Thank you. So about Storyline, you have a technological background by education.
Yeah, I do.
Why did you see a need for a platform for helping people without these skills? Is it something that developers can also benefit from, or was it more like you saw the opportunity in this space?
Yeah, first I would say that most people get Alexa wrong. So when they think about Alexa, Alexa is not actually like a software platform like the smartphone or the web. And most people think that Alexa is, and that's not true because most apps on Alexa, the most popular apps on Alexa, are not the apps that let you chat with friends or browse your social networks, right? The most popular apps are content apps, the apps that play you soothing music when you're tired, the apps that you can use to play trivia games with your family over dinner, the apps that can read your kid a story when she goes to bed. So our unique insight from the day one was that these applications are really just content and that you don't have to be an engineer to create these types of apps. That is why Alexa is much more similar to YouTube than to an iPhone. Because to be great on YouTube, you have to create amazing content. And to be great on Alexa, you have to produce amazing content as well. So what we learned is that non-tech people are actually able to produce this really interesting, engaging content if they have the right motivation to do that, right? And if they do have the right motivation, then their results will be just amazing.
Okay, so you are like liberated the content publishing like YouTube did in a way, so broader.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just for third-party developers, right? We're actually moving away from third-party developers to businesses more because we see that for those guys, it's actually easier to build something themselves than to hire an agency to build a skill for $100,000, right? Something like that. And for most businesses, like just let's just pick a random use case, like a radio station, right? Most Alexa skills for radio stations are pretty much the same. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can just use the template that we provide you with. And we make sure, from our side, we make sure that that template is the best template that you can ever find. It's the most optimized. It works really well in Alexa. And if you want to launch your thing in Alexa, you can start from template.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I think it gives a better perspective how people can go at it. How would you define storyline if there's like a comparison? Is it more like the WordPress of voice applications or Weebly?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
WordPress, both WordPress and Weebly are pretty good examples.
Okay. How do you make the integration with Alexa? How does it work? So let's say I want to have for my podcast a bot or an app, sorry. How shall I go at it?
So we do not publish this thing for you. We provide you with a self-service tool. So you can go to getstoryline.com or sign up using a Google account, and then you can create your skill. And when you're creating your skill, first you need to select a template. We provide you with some templates to make things really easy from the very beginning. And then after you do create your skill, you need to upload your skill to Alexa, first to your own Amazon developer account. And if you don't have one, we'll guide you like how to make one. So you need to have Amazon developer account connected to Storyline because that is how we do the magic. That is how we programmatically take the visual canvas that you built in Storyline, the content that you built in Storyline, and that is how we transform that into interaction model for the Alexa skill. And we automatically grab that and transform it and upload it to your Alexa. And once you do that, you can test your skill on Alexa by saying, Alexa, open your skill name. And once you tested your skill and once you iterated on it, you can publish it to the store and make it available for all people who have Echo devices. And to do that, you can go to the publishing tab in Storyline and fill in publishing information, which are things like skill description, short and long, invocation name, and skill icon. And when you do, you can just submit for the certification, and in less than 24 hours, you'll be good to go.
Okay, sounds exciting. I
So
think
it takes less than 10 minutes to build your first thing. I promise.
Okay, I promise this episode will air on Alexa. Already. Okay. It's already on Google Assistant. I'm when nobody watches, I just put it in my phone and I enjoy how it works. So how does the development work? Do you type the voices or do you dictate? Is it your voice? Is it Alexa's voice if the interaction goes?
Yeah, sure. So we came up with a way to so here is how we think about voice design. In Storyline, we have two concepts, and we have blocks and steps. So a block is a short conversation between Alexa and the user. And it starts from Alexa saying something like, "Hey, welcome to this awesome skill. What would you like to do today?" Right? And then the user replies with something. And those things, both what Alexa says and what user says, are steps. And there are some more steps, like playing an audio file, or alternatively making an API call to some third-party service to grab information. So, for example, you can integrate Google Sheets with Storyline pretty easily, and you can basically put all your content in Google Sheets, and then basically make it available on Alexa. So Alexa will read the content from your Google spreadsheet. And this is really cool because you can manage the content with someone else in this spreadsheet. And Storyline will just grab the content from that spreadsheet and make it available on Alexa. So there are blocks and steps, and the way you design your voice app is basically by creating blocks, then creating steps inside of blocks, like what Alexa says, what user says, and then creating another blocks from what user says. Like if user says yes, for example, there is another block, and then Alexa says something, and then user says something as a result. So that is how you design the voice experience in Storyline.
Oh, sounds amazing. So I could just ask for last days, I don't know, impressions on certain applications, just get some information filtered down to some level if I have it in these integrations, right?
Yeah.
That's good. And what integrations do you have in place? So you mentioned Google Sheet. I heard you have Zapier or in the plan. What
Yeah,
else?
this is in the plan. This is in the pipeline. So we do have Google Spreadsheets right now. It's kind of limited, but you can build pretty interesting skills with that. So, for example, the guy, one of our power users, he's from India. His name is Pratik. So he's built a skill like I think in 15 or 30 minutes. And the skill is very simple. It's called Daily Morning Affirmations. And I actually think this is a really great use case, and this is a really great invocation name for Alexa skill. You can pretty easily understand what it does, right? So I just told you the invocation name, and you have a clear picture that this thing basically tells you a new morning affirmations every day, right? A new morning affirmation every day. So he's built a skill, and the skill grabs random facts, random morning affirmations from a Google spreadsheet, and it basically tells the user new morning affirmation every day. And this skill is on the front page of their Alexa skill store in India. And this guy is currently making over 1,000 a month from this skill because Amazon sent him payouts because the skill is getting so much usage. So it was really simple for him to design the skill. And I think that most people just, when they're thinking about voice interface, they imagine like a huge, complex, I don't know, IVR thing with all these connections, right? But most experiences, most really good experiences, they're pretty simple and pretty simple to design and to create. And I don't think that you should be scared of that.
Yeah, I can relate to that because the things I use, as I mentioned, I use Google Assistant, are very simple. I set reminders when I don't want to choose all the options and which year, which month, whatever. I say, remind me in a month. Or I say, wake me up in 8 hours, and I don't want to count when that happens. And simple things like that. What are your skills that you use on a daily basis? Or what are you mentioned a couple that impressed you?
Yeah, so I use some sound skills with relaxing sounds and ambient sounds. I do not use this particular skill on a daily basis, but I use it quite often with friends. It's the skill that I mentioned earlier. It's called Song Quiz. Skill that's a friend of mine builds. It's actually really interesting. It's kind of like a trio where you can guess songs and you can play with your friends with this trio. So it's pretty good. So those two are, I think, the most often. And yeah, I love playing Yes Sire as well. Like it's amazing. It's kind of like a role playing game on Alexa, and you have to decide what are you gonna do? Like you serve like a sire, and there is a lieutenant, and he comes to you and asks like, "Sire, there is a princess near our castle. Should we let her in or not?" And you have two stats. The first one is money, and the second one is influence. And you have to balance those two. So, for example, you make a decision and you can get more money but less influence. And you have to balance, like, if you become too rich, the king will execute you. If you become too poor, basically the people will execute you, right? So you have to maintain those stats. And the game is really interesting.
Okay, so you put some extra stress on you besides managing this company, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. How is the pricing works? What's the monetization for Storyline?
So we do have a pro plan, and we also have another kind of like another tool. It allows you to build flash briefing skills in Storyline. So the pro plan is specifically designed for this flash briefing thing. So if you know how flash briefing works, it's a specific skill in Alexa where you can add your feeds, and then your customers enable those feeds. Like they can enable like CNN flash briefing or BBC flash briefing, right? And once they say, Alexa, what's in the news? They will be receiving your content that you put into that flash briefing skill. So when you create a flash briefing skill in Storyline, it's a little bit different than the custom skill. It has so the interface is really simple. You can add posts to your flash briefing skill to specific days. So, for example, today you want to publish 3 posts, and you just add 3 posts, and then you click publish in the flash briefing skill. You upload it to Alexa, and these posts become available to your customers. And on a free plan, you can basically you need to log into Storyline every day to create posts. And best flash briefings provide daily content. That is why we built a feature which is called our post and schedule. So you can schedule your content upfront, like for a whole month or for a whole year, and you don't have to go log into Storyline every day and update your content. And Storyline will make sure to deliver the appropriate content into the appropriate time. So that feature is in our Pro plan and also priority customer support from us. We started getting so much usage in the past 2 months so that we're not able to serve all our free users. That is why we prioritize pro customers over just people who play with things. And the Pro plan is 49 per month or 39 per month if built annually. So you save 12, you save $120 if you buy annual plan.
Sounds great. What comes in the future of Storyline? I know Amazon likes to buy companies, and there's even this joke like, "Hey Alexa, buy Whole Foods," which Amazon
Yeah.
did, right? So, do you see Storyline acquired by Amazon anytime soon, or is it more like you branching out to different platforms like Google Assistant, Siri? What's in the future?
Yeah, so first we want to make sure that we provide the best experience for Alexa. And what I mean by that is that we basically want to take their skill building process from the moment when you create the skill to the moment when you publish it and when it's live in the store. And we want to simplify each step of the skill building process at least 5x. So what I mean by that is when you're creating a skill, we provide you with templates and guides on how to design the best experience, right? When you are creating content in your skill, when you're in progress of content creation, we basically give you an ability to import your content from somewhere, to duplicate your content, to push it to another skill of yours. So we help you to do all these things with content, and especially like select multiple voices for your skill, things like that. When you publish your skill, we help you with the publishing, fill in the publishing information. So we want to make sure that we nail down the Alexa experience first. And then we want to expand to other platforms. We want to give you an ability to publish your skill to Google Assistant as well, to Microsoft Cortana. Those two are our biggest priorities right now. And to Siri, of course, if they will ever open up the platform.
I
So we don't have like a plan to sell the company 25 days or something like that, right? We just want to build something people want. That is Y Combinator's credo: make something people want. So we've built a product that people really love. We want to continue doing that, and we'd love to hear from our customers when they say like, "Oh, guys, this is so cool! Like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. I've tried building the skill using code, and it never worked really well. So I just did that with Storyline, and it works." It's always amazing to hear things like that.
Yeah, Vasily, I would love to continue this conversation, but I quickly have to go and build an app, I guess, and also
Yeah,
value your
sure.
time.
You have to do that.
But I would love to have a nomination for our next guest. By you made also already a recommendation. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I think you have to. I think you have to pick Adva Levin. She's fantastic. She's built some of their most popular storyline skills, actually. So, and she has some really interesting insights on how kids think about Alexa. Or I can just drop a few on that. So how kids think about Alexa is that they they don't treat Alexa as a smart assistant. They treat Alexa as a friend, and they talk to her as a friend, and they see her as a small, like as a friend captivated in a small box on your desk, and they just like talking to her hours and hours. And I think that is really interesting because that is the future generation, right? And that is how they become familiar with technology, and that is how they will be interacting with these things in the next 10 years.
Yeah, I would definitely love to explore that topic as well. All right, amazing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate that.
Just the last call to action or question: how can people start with a storyline? What's the easiest way?
So the easiest way is to go to our website, which is getstoryline.com, or you can just Google like Storyline Alexa Builder or something like that, and it will pop up, and sign up and build your first skill. So that is really simple, and I would definitely recommend you joining our Facebook group because we've connected 2,500 best Alexa skills developers from all over the world into one place, and you can get help and you can get advice on how to build skills and what kind of skills to build from all these people. And there are people who won multiple Alexa challenges. There are the best voice designers there, and there are people from Amazon Alexa team there who love to help you. So you definitely need to join that community if you are in this space and if you're interested in learning more.
Sounds awesome. Do you have also a voice chat, or do you have to type there?
You definitely have to type, yeah.
All right, we will do that. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye. I hope you liked this chat. I definitely learned a lot and enjoyed building my first Alexa skill. You can get the show notes at chatbottutorial.com/podcast and just search for this episode number 12. Stay tuned for the next episode. We will be talking about chatbot monetization.
Thanks for joining the Chatbot Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to rate us on iTunes and share it with others.